You are listening to Policybazaar.ae's The Policy Project. We've got you covered.
Mother. Just hearing the word would make you visualize the smiling face of your mom, perhaps feeding you your favorite meal as a child or helping you with your homework. It's true. Nobody can take care of us more than our mothers. But what about mothers themselves? And especially the women who are about to become new moms themselves. So to provide them with the care that they need, we have Maternity Health Insurance. Welcome to another episode of the Policy Project. My name is Sid, your humble host and your go-to guy for all things insurance. And today, we're talking about maternity health insurance out here in the UAE. And like always, we're not alone. We have an expert with us. Toshita Chauhan. She's the Chief Business Officer at Policybazaar.ae, and she's going to be guiding us throughout this topic. Welcome to the Policy Project, Toshita. As always, thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Sid. Same here.
Okay, ji. So let's start off with, as always, the basic question. Can expats and dependents easily access maternity coverage out here in the UAE? And is there a waiting period before maternity benefits become active?
Absolutely. So, expats or the residents can easily access health insurance plans which cover maternity packages in the UAE. Typically, you have your regulatory authority for each emirate. So, Dubai is regulated, for example, by DHA. There is another regulatory body for Abu Dhabi, and there's a different plan for Northern Emirates. So, depending on where your visa is issued from, which emirate, you can look at the policy types, and the inclusion of the maternity plans, etc., will depend on the guideline of that particular emirate. So, for example, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, it is mandatory to have a maternity coverage within the policy. In Northern Emirates, you may have to look at specific policies which cover maternity within the plans. And the waiting period can range from 40 days to 6 months to 12 months, depending on what type of plans you're purchasing. So, very important to know what type of plan you're purchasing. Secondly, very important to declare when you're purchasing your health insurance, if it is particularly to be used, for pregnancy or maternity related matters and claims.
Right.
You technically have to ensure that you mention to the insurance company that you are currently either pregnant, not pregnant, or planning pregnancy. Basis that, at policybazaar.ae, we will be able to advise you what type of plan you should buy, so that when you do happen to claim, there are no declines in claims, and all the claim approvals, etc., are seamless.
Okay. Now let's talk about the expense. How expensive is maternity care in the UAE without an insurance? And how do co-payments, deductibles, and coverage limits they impact maternity expenses?
Right. So typically, if you do not have a health insurance in the UAE which covers maternity, you are paying out of pocket. And a lot of hospitals here offer maternity packages, which could, be of normal delivery or C-section, depending on what your case type is. A normal delivery could cost you anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 6,000 dirhams to up to 15,000 dirhams, depending on which hospital type do you plan to choose. A C-section would typically cost from, anywhere from 12,000 to again 30,000 dirhams, depending on which hospital you plan to go to. And these maternity packages typically only cover the cost of the delivery and the scans and certain essential tests leading up to the delivery in the 9 months, right? So these will not include any emergency situation that, God forbid, arises at the time of delivery. These will not include any sort of coverage that your newborn may require, right? We hear very common situations where, the baby has developed jaundice and has to be
Right.
kept in the NICU for 2-3 days. Or typical NICU cost per day could be about 3 to 5,000 dirhams a day. So all that is not covered if you pay out of as in if you don't have insurance and you're just taking a maternity package and paying out of pocket.
Okay. Now let's talk about the packages a little bit more. So how does the cost of maternity coverage vary between your basic, mid-tier, and the premium plans? And what value-add services justify the price differences?
See, so the basic, mid-tier, and premium plans are defined basis the coverage and also have a lot to do with what type of hospital you're going to. So we know, living in the UAE, we have hospitals which are slightly affordable or cheaper, if you have to say. We have the mid hospitals, and we have the ultra luxurious hotel type of hospitals, right? So we've seen that all,
Right.
depending, and typically a person or a customer is making a choice which hospital they want to go to, is if they are already seeing a gynecologist somewhere in, in a particular hospital, or if they have some level of comfort going to a particular hospital, and having their regular health checkups there, that yes, I'm confident that I want to use this facility. But what we've
Right.
really seen is that which gynecologist kind of you want to go to. Either that comes as, with your past experience, or you've had a recommendation from somebody that she's a good gynecologist or he's a good gynecologist and you should go to them. A basic, mid-tier and premium plans could differ in the maternity coverage in terms of the absolute cover that it covers, in terms of how many dirhams for your maternity coverage the claim will be paid out for. So
Okay.
a basic tier plan could cover up to 10,000, a mid tier could cover up to 15,000, a absolutely superior plan could cover up to the annual limit, which could be 1 million or 150,000 dirhams, right? Depending on the plan type. In the absolute premium plans, there are a lot of additional things which are covered. So you don't really have to pay anything out of pocket. You could opt for a
Right.
zero co-payment plan where you are not paying anything, everything else is covered. Basic plans, affordable plans are something which we absolutely recommend to everyone. That is a plan you should really have, even if you think that nothing will go wrong. In my case, and everything seems to be fine. But the maternity journey is pretty long. It's like 9 months. Then you have
Right.
your delivery, and then there could be some requirement for the baby that is required, which you're not aware of what is going to happen. And mid-tier plans is typically covering hospitals, let's say your Medcare, Mediclinic, NMC, etc. And the premium plans are absolutely VIP, which cover your King's College, American Hospital, certain Mediclinic branches, which are not covered in the mid ones.
Right.
And yeah, so I would say that definitely look at the basic coverage. If you think the mid and the high plans are not in your budget. If you can afford the mid-tier plans, they are a combination of a certain hospital which are not in the basic tier. So, for example, like your Aster and NMC, etc., the mid-tiers will give you a slightly more enhanced coverage in terms of the network, and they'll also give you some enhanced coverage in terms of what is covered in the policy with regards to the basic maternity benefits.
Okay. Now let's talk about normal delivery versus C-section delivery in private hospitals and the costing around it out here in the UAE. So, how much of this is typically covered under maternity insurance?
So, typically the cost of maternity expenses, your normal delivery in an average hospital could range from anywhere from, let's say, 6,000 to 15,000 dirhams. For C-section delivery, it could range anywhere from 12,000 to 30,000 dirhams, depending on the case type. There will be certain things which you will have to pay out of pocket, which may not be included in this cost. In terms of the health insurance coverage, you will have a cover in the basic plan starting from 10,000 dirhams. In the more enhanced plans, you can have a cover up to 15-20,000 dirhams. And in the absolute superior plans, you can have a cover up to even 1 million dirhams or 150,000 dirhams for your maternity coverage. And again, I just want to remind that it's not just about the delivery. The insurance that you're taking is not just for those particular 9 months and the day your child is born. Your child is also covered for the next 30 days from the time of birth till they complete 30 days in the mother's policy, and you don't know what eventualities can come up and what you could use this policy for. So I would say just definitely keep this as a backup, because if you're paying out of pocket for a normal delivery for, let's say, 10,000 dirhams, you could absolutely get a health insurance, a basic affordable plan for your maternity. If it's not a high risk pregnancy case, between, let's say, 15 to 18,000 dirhams. So just by paying that additional 5-8,000, you are really protecting yourself for the eventualities that could come up.
Interesting. Now, let's dive in a little bit deeper out here. Are there any hidden or often overlooked maternity related expenses, like you were talking about newborn vaccinations, room upgrades, epidurals, and all of those things, which are not covered but should be budgeted separately as well?
So, few things that may not be covered and should be kind of looked at separately and budgeted separately. And this could be both if you are buying a maternity package from the hospital directly, or if you're buying health insurance. You should really ask these questions and see which plans cover what. And basis your requirement, you should look at that. Hey, I'm spending so much for my health insurance or so much for my maternity plan. What additional money do I need to pay? Because a lot of people, especially when they're checking out of the hospital, they're asked to pay additional money, and that's when they get confused that, hey, I paid so much for my maternity package or so much for my health insurance. Now again, you're asking me to pay, an X amount of money, and something doesn't seem right. So
Correct.
some costs which could include, let's say, partial cost of epidural anesthesia, what is included, what is not included. Newborn vaccinations, the first essential doses, what are included. If there are any private room upgrade requirements, basis your case. Right, if that is included. There is also lactation consultation that happens, which may or may not be included.
Okay.
There will be certain newborn screening tests, hearing, etc. So, which ones? Essentially, most of these are included in the health insurance package, but the maternity package that you may buy directly from the hospital may or may not include this. So, very important for you to really budget out everything, that create a clear comparison that health insurance costs me this much and this is
Right.
what gets covered in it. If I buy just a plain maternity package directly from the hospital, it costs me this much, and additionally, in both circumstances, what do I need to pay? And at Policybazaar.ae, we can really help you get this sort of comparison for a particular hospital that you are looking at. So you can get to know, okay, eventually after the ninth month, when I've delivered and my child has completed 30 days, what really did I spend out of pocket, what really was covered in the maternity plan, what was really covered in the health insurance plan, and which makes sense. Because if not today, you're kind of paying that money out, over the course of 9 months.
True that. True that. And what about the regulatory requirements? Are there any key requirements set by DHA or HAAD regarding mandatory maternity benefits? And how do the insurers ensure compliance?
Absolutely. So in UAE, maternity insurance, which is part of health insurance, that is regulated
Hmm.
by the health authorities. So in Dubai, it is the Dubai Health Authority, which is DHA. In Abu Dhabi, it is the Abu Dhabi Health Authority, which is HAD. And both the regulatory bodies have put up a minimum requirement as to what the mandatory maternity benefits should be in each policy. And those benefits include, for example, there's a guideline on what should the waiting period be. There is a guideline that if a married female is purchasing health insurance, a maternity cover by default has to be provided within that policy. There is a requirement of how much minimum cover should be provided. So yes, so it is highly regulated. The insurers have to comply to that. So even a basic plan that you will buy has to cover all these. Once you have crossed the waiting period, as stated within each emirate, then automatically your coverage is instated and you will get the cover for that. But again, with the disclaimer that when you are purchasing health insurance, be very careful in what your declarations are. So a lot of
Right.
people, like, I'll give you a basic example. uh, we get customers who say that, I took the policy and there was a waiting period of 40 days in the policy. Now, uh, I was pregnant, but I'm telling you after 40 days. So it is covered, right? So it is not. So eventually, on the form, when you're purchasing your health insurance, there is a section where you have to mention your last menstrual period date. And basis that, when you are pregnant, your reports come out, right? There is a blood test report, there is an ultrasound report, there is a date of conception that the doctor would write in, and those reports are something, that is what it is. And the
Correct.
health insurance, the claim payout company will basically take that and match those records and see when was the real conception and what was the declaration when you purchase health insurance. So it is
Right.
not about when when you discover that, hey, now I will disclose that I got pregnant on this date. It is really that, typically you have to mention everything clearly, and especially also if you're planning pregnancy, because when you are planning pregnancy, the insurance company may want to know more things about you, to
Right.
ensure that, when you do make a claim, all these things are kind of within the underwriting framework of the insurance company. The premium is defined in a way that, the
Hmm.
expenses get taken care of.
And talking about expenses, how does direct billing work for maternity services? And are there any services where reimbursement is required instead?
Yes, absolutely. So, direct billing is what that you typically hear in the UAE. If you are under a health insurance policy, obviously you have to be a UAE resident, who has an Emirates ID card. You typically go to the hospital or clinic. You have to ensure that that hospital or clinic is within your network of the policy, right?
Okay.
If you buy a policy from Policybazaar.ae, you can get access to these network lists in under your my account section, etc. And you will be able to see, hey, whether this hospital, this branch is covered in my network or not. And there the direct billing happens, where you go to the hospital, you show in your you show your Emirates ID card. They will check which policy is your Emirates ID linked with. They will ensure that, okay, this hospital is included in your policy, and they will basically, the hospital will communicate with the TPA and get all your billing done. So you essentially then have to only pay a co-payment or a deductible if that is in your policy. And
Right.
if you are going to a hospital which is out of network, right, that could lead to a reimbursement, or that could also not be covered. So very important to kind of again ask your health insurance provider. You can come up to policybazaar.e and our claims team can advise you in terms of what are the services that are not included and require reimbursement. So could be certain alternate therapies like ayurvedic treatment, physiotherapy sessions. It could be dental treatments, wherein certain dental clinics may not accept your health insurance card, but they will provide you a reimbursement invoice. So you will get an invoice and then you can get it reimbursed, like an eye checkup. So these sort of basic things, and certain lab test or diagnostic centers may require this.
Okay. And we're all desis. So this question has to come up. Are there any cost saving strategies that our policyholders can use to minimize their out of pocket expenses during maternity?
Absolutely. So I would say again, assess what your needs are, which hospital, which clinic, which gynecologist you want to see. We all kind of have a fair idea of that. Ensure that is already included in the plan that you are purchasing. Create a comparison for yourself. At policybazaar.a, we are very good at creating comparisons. We also have like a self-serving platform where you can go and compare your own self in terms of which health insurance plans, what is included. Um Figure out over the course of 9 to 10 months what exactly you'd be paying out of pocket, because even if you're paying out the prenatal vitamins or the folic acid and methyl folates or aspirin injections, blood thinners, etc., the cost does add up. And every time, and for example, in certain cases we have seen that the doctor is advising that there has to be a scan done every week because of the kind of pregnancy it is. We've
Right.
seen customers with twin pregnancies, right? So you don't know. And we always advise that take a health insurance plan before you get pregnant, before you plan pregnancy, right? So because typically if you are pregnant, the insurance company will put up a premium for you, which ensures day one coverage because you're currently pregnant. God forbid there are certain complications, etc., then your case will be evaluated and the premiums will go up basis your case time. However, if you're already insured, let's say, for the last 1 year, you automatically have zero waiting period now because you've crossed that waiting period in the policy. So the insurance
Correct.
company is kind of not putting any loaded premium for your case. You've renewed the policy and you're kind of taking advantage of the premiums that you have paid. And depending on obviously your usage of the policy this year, next year your renewal premium could go up. But at least this year you're not paying a loading of about 10-15,000 dirhams of premium to just
Right.
get a basic coverage.
True that. True that. Very insightful, and we definitely learned a lot in this segment. Thank you so much, Toshita. Ab, let's move on to our next segment, which is Ask Away. Now, here we take up FAQs by our customers and we respond to them with the help of our experts. If you too are inquisitive and a curious learner like myself, and you've got questions about finance, about insurance, then don't hesitate. Just ask away. Slide into our DMs on Instagram, follow us on Policybazaar UAE, or reach out to us via any of the other social media channels, and we'll try our best to answer your questions in the next episode. Today, however, we shall be taking up questions related to maternity health insurance out here in the UAE. And that is going to be answered by Toshita, our expert for the day. So, Toshita, ready?
Yes.
All right, Ji. So, Farida wants to ask, what are the common exclusions in maternity insurance policies? And does maternity insurance cover prenatal tests?
So the most common exclusions, I would say, in health insurance policies covering maternity would be certain kind of epidural coverage. Important to note, elective C-section, where the doctor says, "Hey, you can absolutely go for a normal delivery, and you want to, do a C-section." C-section is absolutely covered if the case requires so, right? If the doctor recommends it. Uh, NICU admission beyond certain limits, it could, you should check that limit for that. uh, cord blood banking and stem cell banking, that's a very popular thing these days, that may not be included in your insurance. And certain non-network services, so if you have a certain hospital or clinic which is not covered in your network and you want to get some tests or you want to consult a doctor in that network, that may not be included. So important to check that before you purchase this plan. uh, and the second part of a question on what are the prenatal tests, etc., that are included. So the basic prenatal tests, screenings, gynecologist consultations, most of them are included. Certain advanced tests like the NIPT, etc., if the case doesn't require so, may not be covered. Very important again to kind of get this checked.
Okay.
For high risk pregnancies, etc., a lot of it is covered because that's what the doctor would recommend, highly recommend. For very healthy pregnancies, younger women, NIPT may not be covered as part of the policy. But I would say health insurance within the maternity coverage does cover a lot of basic things. You're just really sorted for.
Okay. You touched on the topic of NICU care. So Shikha has a question regarding that as well. Now, she's asking, in what situations does a newborn require NICU care, and how do factors like prematurity, birth complications, or maternal health contribute to it?
A newborn may require NICU, in certain conditions. So, for example, premature birth, born before 37 weeks,
Right.
underdeveloped, certain organs remain underdeveloped. We see that very common with, multiple pregnancies. So, for example, twins or triplets. Birth complications could happen. There could be maternal conditions which could affect the baby's health, like diabetes, hypertension, infections, etc. There
Okay.
could be some birth disorders, that may require an ICU admission. So a variety of reasons could range for the reason why the baby could be kept in the NICU.
All right. Yagya ka next question here, and she wants to know, can the maternity coverage be upgraded or extended mid-policy if the customer becomes pregnant after purchasing the plan?
So your insurance policy can be upgraded midterm to include certain pre-existing conditions which were not declared before. However, it is completely on the discretion of the insurance company. That's why if you buy a policy from Policy Bazaar, we really push you to give us correct declarations so that you don't have to go through this. If within the waiting period you are pregnant and again the policy wouldn't cover that, you can submit your recent medical reports, which typically would be initially your blood tests, ultrasound reports, etc. Send
Right.
it to the insurance company, send it to us at Policybazaar.ae. We can request for a midterm loading and midterm inclusion for that particular health condition. In the case of maternity, that can be done, but again, discretion is with the insurance company.
And the last question is from Akshita. Now, she's asking, how do insurers calculate premiums for maternity cover in family plans? And does including maternity significantly increase the overall cost?
Right. So maternity coverage as part of health insurance policy is already mandatory in the UAE, right? Or especially within Dubai and Abu Dhabi Emirate. So if you're currently not pregnant, if you're okay to wait for the waiting period within the policy, then typically there are no loadings which are applied or no additional premiums which are applied. However, if you do declare a pregnancy, or if you do declare that, hey, I'm going to take the policy today and within 2 weeks I may be pregnant or not, I don't know, as I am trying for pregnancy, then the insurer evaluates your case, bases your age or your risk profile, your particular health history, any previous history of, miscarriages, C-sections, multiple pregnancy, single pregnancy, and depending on that, your premium is kind of dictated.
All right, G. So, Akshita, we hope you got your answer. And with this, it brings us to the end of this segment. But don't go just yet. If you also have any questions about finance, about insurance, simply ask away. DM us on Instagram, follow Policy Bazaar UAE, or reach out to us via any of the other social media channels, and we try our best to answer your questions in the next episode. For now, I hope we're all set with our knowledge regarding maternity health insurance in the UAE. We'll meet again next time in the next episode with more informative and more insightful content along with our experts. Thank you so much, Toshita, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Sid.
Take care and stay tuned.
You were listening to Policybazaar.ae's The Policy Project. We've got you covered.